What's going on? It's Frankly Frank here, and we're back with another video. Today's video, we're doing a ranking today for today's video, and I want to be as unbiased as possible, so I'm not going to wear any national team shirt for this ranking. I'm wearing my Konyaspor shirt. Shout out to the Turkish league. Um, but for today's video, we are gonna rank every World Cup team and how disappointing were they. We're going to rank them from the least disappointing to the most disappointing teams. As always, we're doing this in a presentation style. And I expect this to be a pretty long video. And these are my rankings. And it's my opinion if I think a team was disappointing or not. So yeah, let's get right into it. I pressed that and that did not work. Let's get right into it. So obviously the least disappointing team was Spain. They're already the favorites coming into the tournament. I do think they kind of flew under the radar and they kind of dominated in almost every match they've played. The only match I kind of don't think they dominated in was the Belgium match. Belgium was probably the hardest team they played in the knockout stage. They pretty much dominated Portugal, France, and Argentina in the final. I felt like they never looked like they were going to lose control of any game or any tournament, even though I did think Belgium had the best chance to win. I think they're the best team throughout the tournament. Obviously, when you're the World Cup winner, you're not going to be disappointed. You're going to be number one, or in this case, 48th, because you're the least disappointing team on my list. I mean, unless you could think of a team that didn't win that's least disappointed, but the team that number two is not the team that lost the tournament. The team that number two is Cape Verde. And they were probably one of the biggest surprises of the tournament. I thoroughly enjoyed Cape Verde in this tournament. They made the tournament debut and pretty much showed right away that they belonged. They earned a draw against Spain in the group stage. They didn't lose a group stage game. They tied all three of their group stage games. And even me, if you asked me before the World Cup, did I think Cape Verde was going to get eliminated in the group stage? I would have probably said yes. And that's just because, I'll be honest, my knowledge of African football, African soccer is not the best. But the way they got knocked out of this World Cup is, I don't even like. You can't even be disappointed about that if you were Cape Verde. I think the Argentina Cape Verde is top three matches of this World Cup. You could even make an argument that it is the number one match that was played during this World Cup. And they nearly shocked Argentina. They could have taken Argentina to pens, and the way their goalkeeper was playing, they could have won that game against Argentina. And that's why I have them, the second least disappointing team on this list. Because frankly, this tournament was a success. They didn't lose a game. They didn't lose a game in 90 minutes. And they took Argentina to the brink of penalties. Like, you got... That's something to be proud of. And I don't think... I mean, yeah, you're sad about the loss, but yeah, I don't think they're disappointed about it. This was a successful World Cup for them, like in every stretch of the way. Number three, I have Norway. They had not been the World Cup for decades, and we finally see Haaland on the world stage, not just the European stage. And they were impressive. They made a quarterfinal run. They also knocked out Brazil. Yeah, Brazil isn't a good team, but they looked dangerous and confident throughout. And they could have beat England. They really could have beat England. They really could have beat England. And I think Norwegian football is here to stay. They are going to be a good team for years to come. Haaland is a machine, as we already know that. He's not a human. And yeah, losing in the quarterfinals, disappointing. It's sad. It's everything. But you can't say this is a performance for a Norwegian team that hadn't been the World Cup, I think, in my lifetime. I think it was the 90s the last time they're in the World Cup, and say this is a disappointing end to a World Cup. 45 at England. I had a really tough spot picking England. I mean, another semifinal run in a major tournament, deep run in a major tournament, like finals, semifinals. And they're pretty consistent from start to finish. They've never really had a disastrous performance. The worst performance was against Ghana in the group stage. You could make an argument that the last 30 minutes against Argentina was their most disappointing. And that's kind of like where I kind of wanted to put them lower, but I couldn't decide, like, if they should go lower on this list. But they did finish third, so it is their best finish since 1966. So I struggled with them. I really did. I struggled with where I should put them. because of that. But I decided, you know what, fourth is not that bad. Fifth, I put France, and I think this is kind of, I may have put them second if they finished third, but they finished fourth in the tournament. But it's just like when you're a favorite to win the tournament, it's going to end in disappointment unless you do win the tournament. Dictator Mbappe just continues to improve. He's just one of the best players in the world. They ran into Spain, who, frankly, a lot of people didn't realize how good Spain was. Who were the better team? Spain's the best team in the world. They fell short of another World Cup final, of winning the World Cup. I mean, they've won. Like, here's the thing: they won it in 2018. They lost the final in 2022, and they made a semifinal in 2026. Like, it's kind of like the natural progression of like you had your peak and you're slowly moving down a peak. And I would say this 8 years, not 8 years, 18, is it 8 years? 18, 22. Yeah, it is this 8 years from 2018 to 2026. Like, any country would be happy with what France has done. And it's like, you can't say they're too disappointed. And it's something they should be happy of. Next, I got Argentina. And you would think, you know, runners up, they won the last World Cup. I would put them a bit higher, maybe get that second spot that Cape Verde has. I think they handled the pressure of defending their title well. They found ways to win knockout matches, even if it wasn't pretty. And they simply couldn't overcome Spain, which no team could overcome Spain, except honestly Cape Verde, because they tied Cape Verde. It's hard to call reaching a final disappointing, especially because like not many teams go back to back anyways. I think it's only disappointing for two reasons. It could be the last Messi World Cup game is a loss in the final. That's disappointing. And how some of their players reacted after the final whistle, trying to get in fights, is also disappointing. But I mean, no matter what you do, it's gonna be disappointing unless you win. If you're in the final of the last World Cup. So I can't really say the Spanish final. I mean, this Argentina loss is at the most disappointing. But you do wonder, this is probably Messi's last World Cup, and then some of the players, how they reacted. Those are the only two really disappointing things. Switzerland. This was a very Swiss performance of this World Cup. They did exactly what Switzerland does. They're very defensively, hard team to break down. They advanced to the knockout stages, passed a round of 16 this time, and actually made the quarterfinals, which they usually don't do. They're usually a round of 16 team. So I had to rank them as like a very successful tournament for the Swiss. There's really not much to say. They exceeded expectations by getting past the round of 16. They beat Colombia and made it further than they have in prior tournaments. 41, this may come as a shocker. I have Paraguay. They recovered well after a 4-1 defeat to the United States. They beat Turkey and then tied Australia to make it to the knockout stage where they faced Germany. And then, yeah, Germany may not be as good as prior years, but I don't think anyone had Paraguay beating Germany, especially on penalties. They played, they played dirty soccer. They played dirty football. Some haram style football is what people call it. But who cares? It worked for them, and they made it work. They were also the team that got all the new rules introduced to, with the false man, and then the hand over the mouth. Number 10, hand over red mouth. Hand over mouth, red card. And like they exceeded my expectations. After the loss against the United States, I thought Turkey would have beat them, but they did what they did. And they deserve to be around a 16 team. And I will always cheer for teams in the Americas more often than not. Maybe not Argentina this World Cup, but I want to see teams in Americas that usually don't do well. And this is one, Paraguay. They did well, especially because their last World Cup appearance was 2010, where they did make the quarterfinals. But since 2010, 2014, 2018, 2022, they had not made the World Cup. So this is a big improvement for Paraguay. And they took off a European giant. So that's a successful World Cup, in my opinion. Number 40 is Belgium. I honestly, looking at these ratings now, I'd probably flip Paraguay and Belgium. And they advanced to the quarterfinals, beating the United States in the round of 16. And the only goal Spain conceded in this World Cup was against Paraguay. It was against Belgium. So I didn't expect them to win. I actually thought they would have. I underestimated this Belgium team. I didn't think they were as good of a team as they did, but they're really the only team that gave Spain any issues. and they still have shown like the flashes of talent they had for years. And it's not quite the golden Belgium generation. That generation, this is it for them. They're done. But I think it's a good sign up for that generation. I think it shows that hey, Belgium is going to be a competitive team for years to come. They're going to have guys who are going to step in, and they're going to have guys who are going to fill in the shoes of the Kevin De Bruyne's and all of that. 39 at Morocco. They proved that 2022 wasn't a fluke. Yeah, they made the semifinals in 2022. They beat another European powerhouse in the Netherlands. So, that's huge. They reached the quarterfinal, not a semifinal performance, which is why I don't have them as high as maybe they could have been. But they're establishing themselves not only as Africa's elite, but the world's elite. And if you're a Moroccan fan, yeah, you're bummed you didn't make it to the semifinals of the World Cup, but you made it to quarterfinals. You are consistently proving we are one of the best non-European teams in the world, and that's something to be very proud of. And it's not an easy game to play Morocco. And I enjoy watching Morocco. 38, I have Egypt, and I thought about putting Egypt lower on this list. They haven't been at the World Cup. I think they made it in 2018, did not make it in 2022. They made it out of the group, and they could have pulled off an upset in the round of 16. They realistically should have pulled up the upset in the round of 16. VAR intervened against their match against Argentina, and they were up 2-0 in this game. They were up 2-0 in this game and probably should have won this game, which is why part of me wanted to put them a bit lower on this list. But this is still a good tournament for a team that's never made it out of the group before. They win a knockout game, and then they make it to the round of 16. Who do they beat? They beat Australia in the round of 32. That's right. It is a tournament overall. Yeah, it ended in disappointment, but I couldn't for the life of me, because it's the first time making it to the knockout stages. Yes, it ended in disappointment. I couldn't put them lower just because I felt like, I mean, it's a new tournament. Egypt is showing they can compete. Well, should they have won this game against Argentina? Yeah, they probably should have, but sometimes VAR is against you. 37, I have Mexico. Dominated the group stage, perfect group stage win. They played very well. I thought out of all the hosts, this is the best host nation at the tournament. They played very well, with confidence in front of their home fans. They did get a knockout victory, but I don't take that knockout victory for that much because it's a round of 32 that has never existed before. Their big issue is the round of 16, which they haven't got past since 1986. Okay? 1990 they didn't. 94 they didn't qualify. 98 they didn't. 2002 they got knocked out by the US. 06 knocked out. 10 knocked out. 14 knocked out. 18 knocked out. 22 they got knocked out in the group stage. So you can make an argument it's one of Mexico's better performances in recent memory. I'm going to say it is because they got a perfect 9 points and won a knockout game, but still can't get past the round of 16, which is where I can't rate them any higher or any lower, because that's kind of where their ceiling has been, is the round of 16. But I mean, best host performance. Colombia. They beat Ghana to reach the round of 16, and they played Switzerland to a scoreless draw before losing on penalties. They should have done better. They really, part of me wanted to rank them lower. But I thought they let the entirety of the Americas down with this performance. It ended in a heartbreak. I thought they were a quarterfinal team coming into this tournament. But they choked. And if they understood the offside, I swear they're offside so much this game against Switzerland. They should have been a quarterfinal team, really. But I can't really rank them lower because I feel like other teams are more disappointing. I could probably change them with one other team, and not Curacao. So let's go back to Colombia because I thought Canada was next. Canada's not for a while, actually. I just sneaked it. I think they're kind of good where they are. But next on this list, Curacao. This making the tournament was an exciting thing. Yeah, they got blown up by Germany, but then they were very competitive in the next two games. And they scored a goal against Germany. It's really hard to criticize a team of so low expectation as well as a team that had like that it's their first tournament. Um, so I don't think it was a disappointing run. I think it was a good experience for these players. Curacao had some amazing fans this tournament. I remember so many people, including myself, turning into the Curacao Germany game, and were surprised how tight it was, even at halftime. And Curacao even had a goal that game. But I mean, you can't say this is a disappointing World Cup for Curacao. You could say it was an amazing experience for all the Curacao players, those who were born in Curacao, which is just one of them, and those who were born in the Netherlands, which is everyone else. But I think they made the nation of Curacao proud. I don't think any Curaçaoian, or whatever you want to call, I don't know what they're called, would be disappointed in this tournament. The Democratic Republic of the Congo returned from the World Cup after a long absence. First World Cup since they changed from Zaire to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And they reached the knockout stage of this tournament where they had England on the ropes. I actually thought England could have lost this game. England really could have lost this game. And they defended very well in this game as well. And it's showing that African football, not just West Africa or the North African football, is continuing to improve. We have a Central African country on the world stage, which we really don't get that much. It's usually West African countries and North African countries that are competing, and then South Africa, but it's usually not the Central African countries. So the entire continent is continuing to improve, and I think the Congo's here, the Democratic Republic of the Congo is here to say they were a good team, and I hope to see them again. Their fans were amazing, and they defended well, they attacked it well, they put England on the ropes. It's a tournament you could be proud of. Portugal. This is a hard team to rank because I feel like a lot of people had very high expectations for Portugal. They didn't really have an issue of their group. Their group was pretty easy. They beat Croatia in the round of 32. And then they lost to Spain in the round of 16, which I think is to be expected. They never really threatened the Spanish. But you can make the argument it's another really talented Portuguese squad falling short. Will they remember this tournament? Probably not. Is it Ronaldo's last tournament? Who the hell knows? Will we see Ronaldo again? I don't know. With his ego, Portuguese World Cup in 2030, you never know. I could rank them lower. I just can't figure out. I couldn't figure out where to put them, so I just had to put them in the middle. You could probably rank them below Canada and the U.S. Speaking of Canada. So advanced from the group on home soil. They won their also first ever knockout match against South Africa. But they were no match from Morocco, but they weren't playing on home soil for this knockout match. So I still think it's a very successful World Cup. Even though they lost in the round of 16, I still think the loss is better than than the USA's loss, which is why I have them ranked one spot higher than the United States. Spoilers for the team that's next on this list. They didn't look as good, but the Canada's they never made it out of the group before. And they won a knockout game. Yeah, it's the round of 32, but it was new territory for Canada, and it was a good performance. United States, on paper, they technically won one of the more difficult groups. I don't think it's really that difficult. I say comfortably beat Bosnia. That's because the scoreline was 2-0. The red card made it a bit more uncomfortable, even though Bosnia didn't look like they were able to attack very well. But I think it gave a lot of Americans, including myself, a bit of confidence that, hey, we could compete with 10 men. And Belgium completely destroyed us in the round of 16. And losing 4-1 at home in Seattle, which usually is a pretty good soccer atmosphere, leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Good tournament up until the round of 16. Disappointing finish. And the United States shows from 2002 onwards that the quarterfinals is our limit, where we lost to Germany in 2002. 06, we get eliminated in the group stage. 10, we lose to Ghana in the round of 16. 14, we lose to Belgium. Sounds familiar. 2018, we don't qualify. In 2022, we lose to Belgium in the round of 16. So the round of 16 seems like it is our limit right now. I do also think we had the worst knockout loss by any of the host nations. So that's why I put them below Canada and way below Mexico. 30 is Senegal. They advanced from their group. Realistically, they should have won. against Belgium. They're up 2-0. One, I care. They're up. They're up in the 80th minute, and they squandered it. Yeah, they're up 2-0 and squandered this game. They just didn't have the big moments in them, and they squandered the opportunity to hold Belgium off. And this is the game where I was like, okay, this is the game that made me think, okay, African football's gotten a lot better. They're gonna comfortably beat Belgium, and we'll see how they do against the USA in the round of 16. No, they squandered it, and it hurt that they squandered it. This is a team I was excited for before the World Cup, and the round of 32 loss, in my opinion, was very disappointing. I can't place them any lower yet, even though I think I probably could. But there's some other like obscure round of 32 teams that I think are like I don't know, it's just really eh. South Africa advanced out of the group for the first time. And they lost a close match against Canada, which is nothing to be wrong about that. Especially after their loss against Mexico in the first game of the World Cup. This is a good rebound. And I think this is a successful tournament for South Africa. They made it out of the group. They competed against one of the host nations in Canada. And it's just, I think African football is continuing to improve. Ghana lost to Colombia in the round of 32. They never really embarrassed themselves. They got a tie against England. And they lacked deeper quality to make a deeper run. But I think this is where Ghana is right now. Gone are the days of 2010 Ghana that made the quarterfinal. Since 2014, where they got eliminated from the group, they didn't make the World Cup in 2018. I can't remember if they did in 2022 either. But I think this is a good showing for a Ghana team that kind of needed to get out of the group stage and compete and get a win under their belt back at the World Cup, so they can have something to build upon from the days of the 2010 Ghana team. Bosnia and Herzegovina, I think just qualifying for Bosnia was a very successful World Cup. Beating Italy to qualify for the World Cup is a huge thing, which, I mean, I say it's a huge thing. Every team seems like they're able to do that these days. But then not only did they qualify, they made the knockout stage of the World Cup, and they couldn't. One of the biggest issues they had that you could see in the group stage was they don't really have quality in attack. But they're defensively very sound, and that kind of worked against them in the United States, where they had to attack because the United States was down to 10 men. But I think Bosnia has shown some good quality for the future, especially this is their first World Cup qualifying since 2014. A lot to grow on. European qualifying is tough, but if the World Cup expands to 64 teams, which I'm hearing, you're probably all hearing that it's gonna, which I don't know what to think about that. We'll maybe make a video about that in the future. I expect to see Bosnia back at more World Cups. Ivory Coast. This is a team, if you grew up playing FIFA, you love the Ivory Coast. So many great players. But playing Norway in the round of 32 is always going to be tough. But I consider this, mostly a successful World Cup because they made it out of the group stage. I think this team is going to continue and grow in quality. And they are gonna, what's that right there? It's a fly. They're going to be competitive going forward. And like I said, with a 64-team World Cup, if that's going to happen, this Ivory Coast team is going to be back there, and I think they're going to only get better and better. Croatia, you can make an argument they should be a lot lower on this list in the more disappointing section. They lost to Portugal in the round of 32, and they never really controlled the match, really. This generation's old. They're aged. It's a step back from recent World Cups, but we're kind of in like the purgatory range where I can like flip-flop a lot of different teams. I just think this is an aging squad. They need to start using more of their youth. I could, what, thinking about this one, Croatia should probably be lower. Croatia should probably be a lot lower. Like, maybe 10 spots lower. But they're there now. It's just like, I didn't expect much from them, but I don't know how Croatian people think about this game. About how they're out of the run. They only played 4 games this tournament. They lost in the new round of 32, so it's not even a round of 16 exit. I wouldn't call it a disaster, but it's definitely a step back. And I think Croatia is just it's an older, aging team. They need to start using the youth. Australia made it out of their group. They finished second in the group. continue to prove that they belong at the World Cup. They lost the match to Egypt on penalties, where I feel like many Aussies felt like some different things should have happened throughout this entire game, including on the penalties. Very good defensive team. I'll give Australia credit. They're always defensively sound. Looking through, Socceroo Twitter, Socceroo X, a lot of issues with how their manager managed it, especially because they do lack quality in the final third, and they didn't use any of the quality they did have. But the same old story continues for Australia, making out of the group, losing the first knockout round. I love the Aussies. It's just this. I think it's just the same old story. Make it out of the group, losing the first knockout round. So it's disappointing, but I don't think it's nothing new, and I don't think soccer is that popular enough for many people to call it that disappointing in Australia. Japan, I could put Japan a lot lower than what I have them at. Obviously, one of Asia's strongest teams. They didn't really have any trouble in the group stage, and they realistically should have beat Brazil in this first knockout game. This Brazil team is not good. They looked dangerous when they attacked, and I felt like they had the talent to really make a run to the quarterfinals. But they felt like once they took the lead, they kind of had that. It's kind of like the England moment where it's like, oh shit, we have the lead. What do we do? And they just sat back and let Brazil, who frankly is not that good of a team, who I actually have ranked way worse than them in the disappointment levels. But it's they just sat back and let Brazil attack them and win the game. They got scared that they had the lead. And that's why I have them ranked as 23rd on my list of most disappointing teams. Ecuador. This may be, in my opinion, the most boring team in all of the tournament. They had no attacking threat whatsoever. I'm surprised they made the knockout stage. They beat Germany, which is fair play. They beat Germany to even qualify to the knockout stage, which is why I don't have them a lot lower on this list. But their game against Mexico, in my opinion, was so boring for a knockout stage game. It wasn't competitive at all. Mexico just dominated them. And they didn't look that good. Their coach is very good looking, though. I'll give him credit for that. Very good looking man with his long, luscious hair. But I would say that's why they're ranked 22nd most disappointing team. Austria. They played one of the wildest group stage matches with a 3-3 draw against Algeria. They escaped the group, and by escaping the group, they get rewarded by playing Spain. And Spain destroyed the crap out of them. But it shows the gap just between European talent, really. I wouldn't say it's that disappointing for Austria because they made it out of the group, which I think is pretty good considering you don't really hear much on the Austrian football stage. Maybe would have wished to be a bit more competitive against Spain. But like I said, this post, in my opinion, kind of the US part of the rankings, we're in a kind of purgatory range where you can make an argument to switch any one of these ratings. 20 was Algeria, the other team in the 3-3 tie. This is kind of the same boat. You could flip-flop these teams as well. They were one of the best third-place teams. That's why I ranked Austria higher, because they finished second. Algeria finished third. And they couldn't beat Switzerland, which I do think, even though I complimented them for making the quarterfinals, one of the weaker, probably, quarterfinals teams. So that's why I ranked them at 20th. It's a bit more disappointing. You would expect a bit more from Algeria. Algeria's keeper situation is a big mess. And that probably cost them maybe a point or two in the group stage, and definitely cost them the knockout stage. So that's something they need to improve on going forward. 19th most disappointing is I could have put Sweden way higher. They did win and dominated against Tunisia, but got their butts kicked in their other game. I actually can't even remember off the top of my head who they played in their knockout game. Let's look up. Hold on. Who did Sweden? Hey Siri, who did Sweden play in their knockout game of the World Cup? Yeah, they lost 3-0 to France. I remember this game now. They're a team that really, you can make an argument, shouldn't even have been in this World Cup. So just being in this World Cup is a success. They finished last in their qualifying group for the World Cup, but managed to get in the playoffs through the Nations League. So like very, very, very inconsistent and weird. They won 5-1, they lost 5-1. Kachai Japan, but they just weren't a good. I don't think they were a good team like throughout this tournament. They were. I need to look at some stats here actually, because I'm now confused. Let's see here. Yeah, so they beat Tunisia 5-1, then they lost to Netherlands 5-1, and then they tied Japan. So it's just a very weird team that it's totally inconsistent. You can make it like it was just a weird team, and I think 19th is good because I don't think they're a good team coming into this, and I don't know if any Swedish people had any expectations coming in for them. But it's a bit disappointing, and it's a European team that usually has decent success in the World Cup. Iran was a very hard one to place. They drew against New Zealand, Belgium, and Egypt. Fair play. They finished unbeaten, but still failed to qualify. And you could argue it's one of the cruelest eliminations of the tournament, with Algeria and Austria tying in the last minute for them to lose a qualifying spot. I don't think I could place them really anywhere else. I don't want to place them a lot lower, even though I think Iran has a good team. They just faced a lot of bullshit this tournament, and I just think it would be unfair with like the regulations that were put on them to place them any lower. So I think 18th, the most disappointing team, is good. Haiti qualified just for their second World Cup, and they scored against Scotland. Did they score? Yeah, they scored against Scotland. Did they score against Scotland? No, I'm tripping. You see, you see it. That's why you don't write these late at night. Haiti. No, they did not score against Scotland. They didn't score a single goal in this World Cup. Excuse me. No, they scored against Morocco. They scored 2 goals against Morocco. That stat is wrong. They scored against Morocco. They lost 1-0 to Scotland. But they showed flashes of quality, and they skated 2 goals. They lost every game. But they scoring 2 goals in their World Cup is a success. And with all the crap going on in Haiti, just being at this World Cup is a success. Scoring 2 goals is a success against Morocco. I had to place them at 17. Saudi Arabia is a hard one to place as well, because I think just they're kind of the same story every tournament. It's like they get a draw, or they look competitive against a team and then fail to qualify out of the group. You could like in 2022 where they beat Argentina but then fail to qualify. I always feel like they're like 1 or 2 results away from doing something really good, and then they just never do it. So that's why I have them at 16th. Qatar. This is a weird one. I don't understand this country whatsoever. They did pick up their first ever World Cup point with a draw against Switzerland. I remember watching that game. Pretty exciting. But they lose to Canada and Bosnia, who are not as good as Qatar, or not as good as Switzerland. It's progress compared to hosting in 2022, but expectations you think would still higher for a team that can win the Asian Cup. So I don't understand what the hell goes on with the Asian Cup, where they can win it but just not compete on the world stage. So very disappointed performance from Qatar. Uzbekistan, 3 losses from 3 matches, made their World Cup debut. They competed every match. I'm excited to see what the Uzbeks could do in the future. The competition for them was too high in this World Cup, but it's the first World Cup, so I can't rank them in the top 10. They tried, and they competed. They scored some goals as well. Iraq was in a very tough World Cup group. Norway, France, and Senegal. They did finish with a 5-0 loss to Senegal. They only scored twice, conceded 8. They never really looked to compete in this tournament. But it's the first World Cup in over 40 years for Iraq. Be proud to be back at the World Cup. Another reason why I couldn't really put them in the top 10. Another team making their first World Cup. Jordan lost to Argentina, but then losses started to pile up. They finished bottom of their group after 3 straight defeats. I actually couldn't watch a single one of these games. I just had to look at the stats. But just being in a World Cup is always important. It's just They just weren't ready to compete at this stage yet. But being in a World Cup is very valuable, and I mean it will help motivate more youth to come and just more to build something greater for the future. And their fans were watching games at old Coliseums. That's sick. You gotta respect that. 2010 is Panama. I'm disappointed in Panama as a fan of CONCACAF. They couldn't find a single point in the World Cup and did not score while conceding multiple goals every match. Never seriously threatened to advance. I expect better from Panama. I don't know what it is when they reach the World Cup. They look pretty much the same as the 2018 Panama side. Actually, no, that's not true. The 2018 Panama side just happened to defend. This team tried to score. This team really tried to score. Like, they tried to score a lot. They just didn't have the quality to score. So that's why I ranked them 10th, even though they didn't really show, like, you know, get any results. They attempted to attack and tried to attack. This is, in my opinion, one of the most disappointing teams to not make it out of the group. Czechia. They needed a point. They didn't win a single game. They got the draw against South Africa. And then they needed a win against Mexico, which is never going to happen. And they got smacked. Losing 2-1 to South Korea, to a South Korea side that's not that good, is not a good result. And they lacked a lot of quality, really, in attack. They didn't look good in attack or really in defense that much. Brazil. Finally, we get to Brazil. So they won their group, but then they needed a late winner to survive Japan in the round of 32. And then Norway knocked them out in the round of 16. I think we're finally done expecting Brazil to, you know, compete for the trophy every 4 years. I don't think that 6 trophies coming anytime soon. I think Brazil needs to look back on how their system works and how Brazilians are playing soccer coming on, because they look a shell. Just 12 years ago, they look such a completely different football team, soccer team, than they do now. When they last won a World Cup in 2002, I was born in 1998, August of 1998. So think about that. I don't even remember Brazil winning the World Cup. I was too young to remember Brazil winning a World Cup. It's insane to me that, like, we always talk about Brazil, but I think it's up. Brazil's time as the best, you know, always this team that has a chance to win is up, unless they change something about what they do with their national team. Like, how is youth recruitment going in Brazil? I don't know. Maybe it's because there's more Protestants in Brazil now. Who knows? I don't know. I'm not religious. But I am old enough to, like, know, like, Brazil soccer, like, oh wow, like, look at how they play. It's so different than everyone else. It just seems boring now. It seems so boring to watch them play. And it's sad. It's sad to see, like, the team that we all view, like, pretty much everyone who knows soccer grew up, who knew soccer, played soccer, or watched soccer growing up, was like, oh, Brazil. Like, Brazil is always fun to watch. You always watch Brazil. But I don't get that vibe watching Brazil anymore. It hurts me to watch Brazil. Because they just don't have that spice. The Ronaldinho, the R9 Ronaldo. Like, they don't have that. Even good boy Kaká. Like, he played with spice. Like, all these tricks and stuff that they don't have anymore, and they don't seem to play with anymore, and it's sad. It really is. The Netherlands. So I think the Netherlands actually looked good this tournament. They just happened to face another good team in the round of 32. And they actually looked pretty bad in the penalty shootout, if I'm being honest. So the Dutch are weird. Where, like, they can look good but not make a really good run. I think they're a very good team. Like, but they just can't. They just always come across a team that I think is slightly better than them. I think it's a disappointing tournament because I think the Dutch are full of talent. They just choked in a big moment. It's such a huge moment where it's a good team. It's not a bad team. Our team we expected to be bad doing bad. It's a good team. that should realistically be playing much deeper into June than what we got. And I don't know how good they're going to be in 4 years. I think the defense is going to have to be overhauled a bit, and we'll see how Dutch football is in 4 years. Number 6 is Germany. Strong group stage, which compared to prior World Cups, that's a success for Germany. Losing to Paraguay on penalties is not something I don't think anyone had in their bingo cards before the World Cup. For a 4-time champion, a round of 32 exit, I think is incredibly disappointing. But they did get eliminated in the group stages in the prior 2 World Cups. But I feel like they've lost the German consistency that they had since that they've lost since 2014, where they just look like they just don't look like the Germans that just go yes, 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 pass the ball, yes, shoot ball, yes. I don't know. They look like a different team that I don't think is as confident on the ball as they once were. They're not as consistent. Are they still a good football team? Yes. Yes. If they played against a team that didn't bunker, they probably would have won the game. But prior German teams, if we go back 10 plus years, would have been able to beat the Paraguay bunker. Well, this Germany team just doesn't have the quality to do that. That's the biggest issue. They don't have that quality up front. I don't think Havertz is it. And he also missed his penalty, I'm pretty sure, as well. I didn't watch a lot of the Paraguay game because it was a Germany game, but I was golfing. I watched extra time and penalties from the golf cart. But they didn't really I didn't really feel like they were giving Paraguay that much of a challenge. And I think they deserve to be in this top six most disappointing teams. Number 5 is South Korea. I feel like South Korea comes into every World Cup with high expectations, and then they always shit the bed. I think, this hates me to say it, I think Son Heung-min, one of my favorite ever players, is probably done with the national team. I would be surprised if we see him in 2030. He's just too old. He doesn't have the legs anymore. They had every opportunity to advance, especially because they beat Czechia in their first game. 3 points off the bat. And then, let me look at some stats here. Let me look at some stats. South Korea World Cup. Let's see. Yeah, so here's the thing. They beat Czechia. Cool, 2-1. Okay, that's huge. Then they lose to Mexico 1-0 on a goalkeeper mistake that they realistically should not have made. And then they lose 1-0 to South Africa, where realistically, if they just got a draw in that game, they are probably through to the knockout stages. But they don't. They lose to South Africa, who frankly is very mediocre. Dude, and you know South Korea is pissed when they blur the manager's face during the interviews. Dude, that's dishonorable. He was dishonorable is a good way of putting it. It was a dishonorable performance from a team that looked like they were destined to make it out of the knockout stages after the first game. 4, I have Scotland. They beat Haiti 1-0, which maybe you think could give you signs to things to come where they just don't have the quality in front of gold. But once again, winning your first game and then just losing your next 2 and then getting eliminated. And Scotland could have gone through on 3 points. I want to make that clear. Their goal difference just became so bad from losing to Brazil and Morocco that there was pretty much no way for them to make it the knockout stage. And Scotland's got decent talent. They really do. Especially in an expanded World Cup where there's extra teams going through in the 3rd place. I think it's very disappointing for the Scottish to not make the knockout stage. This is now their 9th World Cup exit without making the knockout stage. And their 4th Euro. They go up their 4 Euro exits. I don't know what it is with Scotland. They just love the group stage. They come here, party for 2 weeks, and go home. Wherever they go. Scotland will be there, drinking all your bevs and going home. I expected more from Scotland. I'm disappointed in Scotland. Their fans deserve better. The Scots have some of the most amazing fans, and Scotland let them down. 3, I have Turkey. Lost 2-0 to Australia, and then lost 1-0 to Paraguay. That already eliminated them before the final match. Yeah, they beat. I can't put them any higher because they did beat a heavily rotated USA team with a stoppage time winner to give them some pride that they won a game in the World Cup. But this team caught a lot of crap going into the tournament, how they're the best team in the group. You can see before the game against Australia how they're talking about how they were the better team. I mean, they got a full military convoy to travel to the United States to the Turkish airport from their buses, pretty much. And 2 poor matches where they had over 60 shots and couldn't find a goal. That's pretty much unheard of. So I think it was a very disappointing from Turkey. And I know a lot of Turkish people. I am repping Turkey. I'm repping Turkey today, so I guess I do have a bit of a bias. Would be disappointed in that. And I think they're a good team. I really do think they're a good team. They just couldn't beat the low block, or the extremely low block in this case. Number 2, I have Tunisia. Got destroyed by 5-1 in Sweden in the opener. And after that, they fired their coach after one match, which is pretty much unheard of in the World Cup. Then they lost to Japan and finished with a 3-1 defeat against the Netherlands. Lost all 3 games, lost by a lot in all of those games. I'm pretty sure they conceded double-digit goals. I forget how much they lost to Japan. I should have taken better notes. Tunisia World Cup. Let's see. Yeah, they conceded 12 goals this World Cup while only scoring 2. That's a -10 goal difference. I think that even if this isn't their first World Cup, but even if it was, this would be something you would be embarrassed by if it was your first World Cup. It was a disaster of a World Cup, and part of me wanted to put them as the most embarrassing team this World Cup, but I just couldn't because it's not a big nation doing this. It is a smaller nation that no one really had expectations for going into this World Cup. But it's still an embarrassing World Cup. But most embarrassing team is Uruguay. Many people, including myself, I didn't think they could challenge for the title, but I thought they could make it very far in this World Cup. And they failed to qualify for the knockout stage. I thought it was a very talented roster. And they finished 3rd in a group that was frankly not that hard, of Spain, Cape Verde, Uruguay, and Saudi Arabia. Yeah, we learned Uruguay finished 3rd, but in an expanded tournament where you can't finish as one of the best 3rd place teams, they're considered one of the worst 3rd place teams. You don't get out of the group. That's pretty embarrassing for a team like Uruguay, who likes to show off that they have their 2 World Cup championships and 2 World Championships before the World Cup existed on their jersey. It should be better. It's unacceptable, and I think for a big nation, they have to be as the number 1 most disappointing team. You can't get out of a group that has Saudi Arabia and Cape Verde in it. Yeah, Cape Verde is good, and they're actually a really good team. But if a draw, you could draw them and beat Saudi Arabia. Come on. It's not that, and they also lost the plot at the end of this game. They're in their last group stage game against Spain, where they kind of just wanted to fight everyone because they knew they were out, which makes it even more disappointing and more embarrassing. It was just a rough go. And like I said, I always like when teams in the Americas do well. And this is maybe another, maybe a bias I have that I have to put them at 1, where it's just you let the entire continents of the Americas down by doing this. It's not a good look. Especially because you're a team that has consistently been a good team. Maybe not, qualifying to win the World Cup team. I exaggerated by putting that. But a team that could, compete against any other team in the world. And you showed you couldn't even compete against a group that really the only top-class team was Spain. It's embarrassing. And it should be. And it's why Uruguay is number 1 on my list. So, that is the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you disagree. I imagine you would so, but just remember, these are my opinions. That middle of the list gets very hard, but I tried my best. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Peace.